Recording.
All right, go ahead, Dick.
I'd like to call this meeting to order for October 20th. We have a roll call first.
Dick Poofall,
Here.
Gary Mertig,
Here.
Bill Metzinger,
Here.
Marty Vitek,
Here.
Mike Berlin.
Mike, has he called in or anything?
I sent him a text and he hasn't responded back. So I'll let you know as soon as he texts back.
And number 2 on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. We need a motion.
Also moved. I'll second.
The motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Public comment.
I'm having a very hard time hearing Dick.
Let's move that mic right next to your mouth.
Is this on?
I can hear you. It's just hard to hear you.
You hear that? Is this on?
I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah, just keep it right next to your mouth.
Number 3 was public comments. We had no public presence, so we'll go on to number 4. Approval of the executive meeting minutes from September 15th. Need a motion.
Also move.
This is by Bill,
I'll second.
seconded by Gary. All those in favor of approving the minutes, September 15th, say aye.
Aye.
Did we have approval of the agenda?
Yeah, Gary made the motion and Marty seconded it.
Thank you.
We'll go on to number 5. Discussion and action, update county board handbook.
Okay, this basically came from the one of the last meetings we had. The committee wanted to look at how resolutions were brought to the county board in addition to any other changes. The county board packet, the county board handbook is updated at a minimum once per session, and your session is 2 years between your election and when the new election happens. And during that 2-year period, at any point, you can make changes to the handbook and then recommend the county board approve it. If you want to make changes to the handbook today, we would put it on the agenda for November 10th for the county board to approve, and we would republish the county board handbook at that time with any changes. In the, if I have followed along with the notes that you had previously, if you look on, looks like page 2 or 3 of the write-up here, we basically have from page 23 of the handbook, all resolutions brought before the county board must be introduced by, and then we crossed off Ashen County Board Supervisor. We basically just left it a committee of the Ashen County Board or the county board chairperson / county administrator. Should so be stated in resolution which committee has introduced such resolution. C did not change. Supervisors or committee chairpersons should be prepared to answer questions pertaining to the resolutions and introduce said resolutions. With that, we would seek a motion to change county board handbook to reflect that resolutions brought to the county board be reviewed by committee or the county board chair / county administrator.
I'm okay with this. I have only one thing I would like to see though. Rather than should be so stated, must be so stated in the resolution. And it should also be
What section are you on?
item B.
On B.
Yeah.
So you want
Instead of should,
must be so stated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And also I think it would be helpful to also include that information in the agenda of which committee or the source of the resolution.
Yep.
We have to vote on those changes.
Yes, you'd have to have a motion to, amend the handbook with the addition that you see in the packet to have B changed from should to must. So seek a motion to change the county.
Pardon me?
You make any other motion?
Yeah, I'll make that a motion.
You make that a motion, okay.
And also that it be so stated in the agenda as well.
I'll second that motion.
I'm sorry, what was the second motion?
Pardon
What did you say second? You made a motion about changing it from must to the second thing.
Oh, the second part of it would be that information also be in the agenda. So that when you read the agenda, you spot it right away, without having to dig through the resolution.
You made the motion,
That's my motion, yeah.
and I second it.
Yeah,
And the motion and the second on the table to change B from should to must. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you.
okay, we will put this on the agenda for the November 10th county board meeting.
I got a couple things on here. I want the committee to weigh in on. On page 12. Number 18 on page 12.
Dick, I'm having a hard time hearing you again.
Pardon me?
I'm having a hard time hearing you again.
Yeah, make sure that mic is right, like this far from your face. Just move it really close. There you are. Okay, you're on page 12, you said?
Mike, so Walmart.
It's on, Dick.
Okay, page 12, item 18. It says the chair should attend meetings as directed by the board. I don't quite understand that. Anyway, why is that even in there? Mark and I work together when he has something on the agenda or on his agenda that he thinks that I should be involved with, he calls it. And I do follow the direction when he says, I think you should be at this meeting, I go to the meeting.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I go to all other meetings that I'm able to, and then this is very many. I don't know why it sounds kind of strange that the board should tell the chairman to attend.
So this was brought up basically a year ago. So last fall, the fall of 19. And I think the executive committee at the time had said, what if we have a board chair who doesn't want to do anything? And basically, they just want to collect their money and not attend any meetings. I think they put this in here so that the board can direct the county board chair to attend meetings. What? Sorry. There must be somebody down in the office down there. So anyway, that was the discussion at the time, was basically, it's not you, Dick, but what happens in the future if you have a board chair who says, I don't want to attend any meetings? The remedy is the board forces them to attend meetings, or the board can basically take the chair out of the chairmanship at any meeting if they want to take an election. So I think that was kind of the decision, which is, how do you force somebody who doesn't want to attend meetings? I don't have a strong opinion on that one way or the other. I mean,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I kind of agree that
it's senseless to have that in there because if we did have a chair who didn't show up to anything, I think the board would take some action. The other way to look at this is I don't think we should put the pressure on the chair to think they have to go to every committee meeting. I don't think that's necessary. I don't think committees need the chair at every meeting unless they want to be there or can be there. I think the way Dick is doing it is working. I think past chairs have attended as many meetings as they can. I don't want to burn a chair out either by thinking they have to go to every meeting that's out there. And if the board feels the chair is not doing their job, I agree, then the board just takes some action that way. But I don't want the chair, whoever they are, to think they have to be to every meeting.
Well, go ahead, Marty's first.
Well, I agree with what Gary was saying, because if you force somebody to go to a meeting, they don't want to, it's not, you know, you're not going to get the game.
No,
Yeah, but the board really hasn't directed the chair to go to any meetings, have we?
I don't believe so.
No, we haven't done that. So, or we're not going to start that now, are we? You know, there's no reason to. I think if Dick goes to a meeting he feels like going to, or that he thinks is important, you know, that would be the one he would attend. But right now, we have not directed the chair to go to any meetings, as far as I know.
no, I didn't.
Yeah, we haven't.
What, Dick, what if that simply stated, if the board wanted the chair to be at a specific meeting, maybe it's not a committee meeting, maybe it's some other meeting that Clark is not able to attend, and the chair can't attend, he would appoint somebody to go in his place.
The vice chair.
So that the chair doesn't feel like, well, I gotta go to this meeting and I can't. Maybe we just simply make a change to that, saying the chair should attend meetings as directed by the board, and if not, appoint someone who can, you know.
That
whoever,
would be great.
you know. And you're right, I don't know that we've ever directed
No.
him to go. You know, Clark would maybe make a suggestion to go to a meeting, but if the board chair can, they make sure somebody's there.
Yeah, like I said, I think that this was just set up that, I remember the discussion was, what if we get somebody who's just a real load, it doesn't want to do anything? You know, we could just add to that sentence, the chair should attend meetings as directed by the board or delegate someone to attend. And I have no idea what those would be. I mean, that could be, there's some sort of important meeting and the board says, hey, we really want the county board chairperson there, and the chairperson can attend. Well, you can say, well, I'm going to take the vice chair, or I'm going to take the second vice chair, or somebody. Okay, I'll add that to attend. Are you okay with that, Dick?
So what are you adding?
Basically just saying, so if the board basically really wants the chairperson to be at a meeting, the chairperson could delegate somebody to attend there if they don't want to, or they can't attend that meeting. So let's say there's an important meeting of whatever, I don't know, Northwest Regional Planning Commission. And the board says, hey, you got to go to those meetings. And you're like, I'm busy, I can't do this. You'd take one of the other 20 people and just delegate them to attend the meeting on your behalf.
Okay,
And like I said, I don't anticipate this being a problem with you, Dick, because you attend these meetings, but we're writing this document to outlive us, to try to say what happens, you know. So are you okay with being able to just, if you have to go to meetings, just you delegate somebody? Are you okay with that?
right.
Okay.
Okay, one other thing, Clark, I got a question. Page 14, item 8. Committees or county supervisors requesting opinions from the Adjutant County Corporation Council must communicate those requests through the county administrator's office. I do think that there should be exceptions made for the county board chair. And I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but if there was a problem that we had with the administrator, I would have to get the administrator's approval to get a legal opinion. And I think there should be except the county board chair. Not that I'm going to be running to max about anything, I haven't yet, but
No, that's an excellent point, which is, so let's say I start just sloughing off and playing video games all day. You know, you're gonna wanna know, what are your options as a county to get rid of me? You know, you don't wanna have to go through me for that. You wanna go directly to the county, the corp council. That makes perfect sense.
yeah, it's not that I plan on doing it, but it's just, it's a gray area.
Yeah, you never know who's gonna be sitting in my chair, and you may, if you made a mistake and you gotta get rid of somebody in this position, you should be able to talk to corp council and coordinate how to get rid of that person.
So we should just add on that one, or county board chair.
Let's see, committee or county board supervisors requesting opinion of the county board corp council must communicate these requests through the county board administrator's office, except for the county board chairperson.
That's what I have down here.
Yep. Okay, that's page 4.
That's not putting me an advantage because I'm not going to be doing this forever. Whoever is in charge will have that advantage.
Yeah, and
It's not a big deal.
yeah, and I think the remedy towards that is, let's say we have a county board chairperson that is talking at $200 an hour to the corp council all the time. I approve all the bills, so I'll see all those bills. And if it became an issue, we would have to basically bring it back to the executive committee, you know, to say, hey, we're having this problem. But I think that's a fair remedy. I'm good with that.
I think the intent of this item initially anyway was as a cost control.
Precisely.
We need a motion to do that?
Do you have any other corrections? Or any additions?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so if you would make Marty, if you would just say that you want to amend your motion to reflect all the changes that were made,
I'll do that, yeah.
And I will second that.
you'll second that amended friendly amendment, I guess you'd call it. Okay. So now we're good.
Do you have any more, Dick?
No.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to approve the amendments to the county board handbook. Page 12, number 18. Page 14, number 8. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Any more discussion or changes on the 13 administrative handbooks? Everybody
So,
has reviewed this
Probably the
already?
only thing I have is I would really encourage the executive committee
It's been our
to
case
also
for a long time.
review the finance meeting that is on the YouTube channel from the last week. We had our auditors report. And the auditor spoke for, I don't know, hour and 20 minutes.
Item on their agenda.
Very educational, and the county has some significant problems.
Over
we've been
65 healthcare
Basically
options.
spending our cash, we've are unallocated. As I'm getting more and more in depth into the budget fund from like $3.5 million on our healthcare. And this next year's
You saw
budget
the
from
auditor's
2021,
report from
we're going to be
the
spending another
last
$250
finance
million
committee
of
meeting
that
where
to
the healthcare
support
fund
county
has been in
operations.
deficit
So
over the last
there'll have to
number of
be
years.
some significant
to
changes.
the tune of
And from the personnel
$1.1
standpoint, which this
$8
committee
million
served as, you know,
So
we're
probably
looking
gonna
at
be
how to make
looking
changes
at,
to that. This
I'll
is a
probably be
small
coming back
change that
to-
I'm recommending that will, it
We're
will
trying to
not
come up
affect
with a
the,
policy for.
will not affect the rates
you
for
know, a
2021,
hiring
but
freeze of
would
some
be effective when we review
I
it
don't know
next
how
summer
that,
going into
you know, part of the
2022.
reason I can't.
So we have two groups
saying
of
you have a hiring
employees
freeze
who have
is pretty
retired
easy.
from the county, which
Implementing
participate in the
more
county
complicated.
healthcare
So
plan.
do you not
One
hire
group is
highway
under the age
workers
of
who plow roads?
65, but have
Do you not
retired
hire
already.
people who
The
work
other
in the
group is
jail?
over the age
Do you not
65
hire
and
public
retired from
health
the county
people in the middle of
workforce
a pandemic?
to,
And if you
prior
get
to
a
the
certain
change
point,
regarding
what does a
termination
hiring
of
freeze
COBRA
really
coverage
mean?
at age 65.
If you basically.
The
have
group
to
that is
hire
under
all
age
mandated
65
service,
pay a full
child
load
protection.
cost, meaning
You
they
know,
pay
so
both the
I'm
employee
gonna try to
and the
shop
employer's
around to
portion
other
of the
counties that
healthcare.
have done this throughout
The
the
group
years.
over the age of 65
And
retired
because
from the county pay a discounted
One of the
rate for
ways to
healthcare.
obviously to
This group is
decrease
eligible for
the county
Medicare,
expense is
but
to
by
figure
federal
out,
law, if you have a full
know,
coverage plan,
if we could
that
work
plan
through
is
attrition.
the primary
And
coverage, and
basically people
Medicare
who have
is
left, we just don't
secondary.
replace.
In an
How
era of
does that look
decreasing
and
county
would that
budgets,
save
it's a
some
hard
money?
decision,
'Cause I
but
don't
we
think
are
that would save
recommending
the
that we
entire problem,
discontinue
but it
offering
would save some money.
participation in the county's healthcare
And
plan.
We
to
have to
past
see
employees
what would
over
go
the
with
age of
that. I would hate to go to
65.
the fact,
This will
I mean,
not affect our.
I'd hate
this
to go
will
to the
not
point of
affect our
basically
health
just laying
insurance
off
rates
people
or
because we don't have
experience
the
for
money.
2021
But
is
I
already
think the
set
first
in
step
place.
would be looking
This
at a
will
hiring
affect our
freeze
2022
and how to
rates,
implement that
which
policy.
we made up of
And
experience and
how
data
to
from
make that,
2021.
is that,
We are recommending that
everybody
we
who's
give
hired
this
has
group
to
till
come
February
to the
1st to find
administrator,
new
everybody
supplemental
who
plans
is going to be
to go
hired has
along
to
with
go
their
through
Medicare
the
coverage.
executive committee. Every hire
And
has to go to the
we
county
have,
board. How do we
in that
decide
group,
how to replace people?
We have one,
but
two,
not
three
cripple county
single
government? You know, if we have to wait
plans,
a month or 2 months to
and,
advertise to bring a
3
jailer
family
in,
plans, so
that's
that's
gonna
a
be a
total
real
of 9
problem.
individuals.
do we want to make
3 singles
exemptions?
and then 6.
The reason I'm just talking
family.
about this is I want you
That-
as committee members,
You know,
to
the
contemplate
the ages of
what you
these
would like to
people
see in
are,
a policy and get back to me,
you know,
because I will.
they're
I will
all
work on
obviously by
drafting
very
that
definition
as we go
over the age
forward.
of 65. They're all
In
eligible for
addition,
Medicare.
and so they would just,
You know, we're
we're going to be looking at the finance committee
and, by a
basically
supplemental
decrease
plan instead of
the
county plan.
decrease the capital expenditures or the debt levy by $300,000. So I basically, we took a couple $100,000 out of
Yep.
highway.
So that's,
Yeah, so the change I'm just recommending
appropriate amount
today
for
and the rest of
discussion
it is
is
highway
people who
based
are
over
over
the
the
majority
age
of our
of
debt levy. They have to have the majority of the costs out of there.
You have,
And that will be a county board decision on the 10th. Do we want to levy for debt levy for 1.5 million or 1.8 million?
it costs,
We base our
you know,
building in, just like we
all
base our
insurance.
building in the.
Some years it's more, some years it's less.
It is costing
The
us
interest on this
substantially
will
more
be about a
money,
63
2 to
day
3
loan.
times what they're paying in to
And,
cover them. So I've let the bank
but
know.
of course, that
We'll
is
know on the
experience
10th,
too.
Some years it might be better, some years it might be worse, but,
Or maybe somewhere in between.
I don't want to go into
So the
specific
county
dollar
board will have
amounts
to
with
weigh
the
in
group.
on that.
But the last time, and I have a sheet
And
here that has
other
everybody's
than that,
name
we're
and
basically
experience and
seeing a
cost on
slight,
it. You know, the
and it is
COVID issue
significantly higher
higher
than the revenue we're getting in.
$25,000 a month. My recommendation
contact
is
tracing.
in order to help the
We're
long-term
working with a
viability of our
couple different
healthcare
grants
plan
to try to
is to basically
keep up with
terminate
that
their insurance
financially.
effective February 1st. They could just go by, one grant runs out on
I don't know
November
that
5th,
much about
and then
supplemental.
hopefully the other one runs out in December
plans,
for
but
Medicare,
it
but
will
I
pose
think
a
it's
challenge
frankly, I
for
think
us
it's cheaper than
going
the
into
county 21 if there isn't any other state or federal money coming to the.
Yeah,
local
I had
governments to
called the
keep
county
up
clerk's
with
office and
contact
I
tracing
had,
and public health costs.
asked
At
them
the
about
local
the
level.
different
So we'll have
rates.
to just face that
And
bridge when
right
we come to
now
it,
for a
which is
single
which is
plan,
one of my concerns with not having a balanced
if you were
budget. is
retired over
it could get worse
65,
based on
on a
the,
single plan, you're
pandemic
paying
here, so.
$450.
And I
And
don't
the
have any
county's
other
rate
updates.
is $925. So that would be $5,400
upcoming
savings right
budget,
there, times 3 people,
Is a percentage raise for all
$16,200.
employees considered?
And
or
on
no,
the
or what,
family
or
plan,
What's the status
That's
of that?
both
Been
members
changed
being
with you
over
guys?
65,
We basically have no
the
increases
reduced
for any
rate
employees.
was
We basically decreased,
$675.
travel. We
And based on the
decreased,
age, the county is paying
conferences.
$2,000
We
premium
decreased
per month.
expenses where we
So that's a
thought we
savings
could.
of $1,325 a month. times, that's
But even balancing those forces,
$15,900
obviously,
a
we
year,
still are
times
significantly
3
have
is
a
$47,700.
misalignment of revenue and
So
expenses.
with these
The other
two
thing, the other
plans,
thing from the
county would be
long-term
saving
perspective, if you saw the finance committee,
$63,900.
the healthcare fund has not
year.
been sustainable over the last few years. So
So
there has to be an increase of money going into that healthcare fund.
$63,900.
Employees, meaning they get a pay
That's how
cut,
much the county
or
would
if
be
that
saving.
means we increase the
Just paying the
contribution that the county
premiums.
puts into our
Uh,
self-funded
I
plan
was
every month.
kinda,
That has to be increased general levy dollars.
And when I got close,
So
they
that
changed
fund
it.
is gonna be a
Well, it
problem.
would have been beneficial
the
for me to
social
be on this
services
program.
committee
But
went
now with
ahead and
Medicare,
approved a 2% raise.
I have a
That
supplement and I'm paying
do
less than
anything or no?
$400 a month, so.
That was not
It's
approved by
not
the
going to
finance committee.
be, okay, but
You know,
the
it's
social
not putting an
services committee
additional
a burden on these people.
Yeah,
But
Because
I think it should
That's as
pretty
far
much
as it went.
be a
that's as far as
wash.
it went.
They can
It,
get the
it doesn't
same
make
coverage.
any sense.
But that
It
was
doesn't
a
make any
benefit
sense
that
to
we had
give
given
one department a raise and
employees,
nobody else.
you know, so when they retired,
Lori did
But
do a
that's how much I
spreadsheet,
think we'd be
general
saving.
2% raise
and it doesn't,
would,
$63,900.
would be
The
somewhere
single
around
plan was
$100 to
$5,400 a
$120,000
person.
additional
The
money.
family plan was
that we would have to take out of the bank to give employee
$15,900 a
raises.
person. So
And so obviously, we're
I
already
think
taking
it's a good
$250
idea,
out
and
of
I
the
think
bank. I'm
we're
not
not really
recommending
hurting the
that we
people
take
because I think
another
they can
$100
get
or
it
$125,000
comparable
to give
insurance.
people raises, because that's just more unsustainable. You know, I mean, in the long run, we have to build in some sort of increases for the staff. If we basically tell the staff, if you choose to work
No,
for
there was,
Ashland County,
those over
you will forever
65,
see
most
no
likely it's
raises,
the
and you'll most
spouse.
likely see a decrease in
Yeah,
cash pay
it's
by
just the
increased
spouse.
healthcare costs.
These people, Dick,
You're
are
gonna
over the
find
age
a
of
significant
65.
retention problem.
They
and
would not
recruitment
have any
problem.
children, obviously,
So,
because, well, frankly, they're too
Um,
old to have
there's
dependent
a
children under that
misalignment
age.
in either how we
And in
provide
that
services
group,
or how
in
we
that
raise
group of
revenue.
over 65, we did
And,
double check to make sure
there has
that
to be
the
a
family
combination
plan
of that
over
to try to
65,
try to
spouses
get the
over
county
65
onto a
also,
sustainable path,
because that
which
could
it
have
has not been on
posed
for
a
5 years.
problem if we had a spouse that was 66 or a spouse that was 64 and the participant was
I don't know who
66. So
Be the finance
Um,
committee or whatever.
it's not the case.
If they
These
looked into,
people's,
like,
you know, their
restoring-
birthdays are,
Like we used to get,
their birth
12
years
days
are in the
of,
40s. So these
holidays,
people,
and they cut it down to, they
Um,
took 2 holidays away.
everybody in the
Is there
group is over
any
the
way
age of
we could
65
go
and
ahead
eligible
and-
for Medicare.
Instead of not giving them a raise and restoring those 2 days, or if it's a 2% raise, could we say, well, 2% raise is actually 5 working days, no matter what your salary is?
But we
They get
double
an
checked, and that's
additional
not the
5 days
case.
of Vacation.
We double checked everybody's
Is
spouse
there- who-
that's in the family
Have they
plan.
ever
and they're
discussed
all
that, or
over the age of
finance committee,
65 also.
or?
They have not.
So we don't have
And,
any,
I
on the
think,
family plan,
I think
everybody
the goal
in
of
this whole
the
group are recommending
2021 cycle
100% is
is to
over
look
the
at
age
all
of
these different
65.
things of how do you create a sustainable
So there isn't
workforce
any,
that's,
rewarded.
we don't have to
in
face
they
the
wanna
fact
come to
of,
work
what do
for
you do with
Ashland
somebody, a
County, and
spouse,
people want to apply for jobs
that's
in
under the
Ashland
age of
County.
65 that
But
doesn't
at the
have
same
Medicare.
time,
Working within
So-
the limited amount of money that we have. I mean, my recommendation was to, at least in the short term, help out the county with wheel tax.
Okay,
The county
when
board did
you
not
retired
get a,
from the county,
The county board did not get a.
and you
a
were
motion or a
65 or
second
over,
to
you
put it
paid
on
a
the
reduced
agenda to
rate.
Even talk about it.
okay,
So
the
wheel
rate
tax has never
on
been
a family
discussed.
plan was
It'd be my
$675,
recommendation that we
and the
discuss it,
county
but
was paying the
somebody,
difference.
a county
between
board member
what
would
the
have to
premium would be
basically say they want it on the
$2,000.
agenda again.
So the county was paying
In order to make a motion and a
$1,325 a
second,
month
in order to
on
discuss
your
it.
premium if you were over 65, and you were paying $675. Okay, and that would be the $2,000. So there's 3 people like that.
I think
1325 for 12 months
something,
comes out to
and their health insurance is going to be
$15,900
going up,
a year.
and
The county was
actually,
paying extra.
I feel we're
Okay.
underpaid.
And times
but-
3 is $47,700.
You know, we
because
knew
there was
that,
3
But this is an
families
underpaid
involved.
area.
Okay,
So
all of them
you know,
are over
I do feel that they
65.
should get some type
Okay.
of compensation.
so they can qualify
type
for
of raise,
Medicare.
you know.
But if you have
So
insurance,
I would
insurance gets charged first.
That would be
then
my 2
Medicare.
suggestions.
One
Okay.
would be
So
5
that
additional
would be
days
a-
of vacation.
and then the
which
same
wouldn't
thing is
cost
on a
us
single
anything.
plan. Or
It was in
My
the
second
original contract that when you
recommendation would be
retired, to get
Instead of if you
the
had a
2
single
holiday
plan,
pays back
let's
that
say
they were taken
you
away.
would be paying
So,
$925 a month.
Is it up to this committee to make a
on,
motion, or is it the full
With
county
the
board, or
agreement
is it the
before, you only had
finance
to pay
committee, or what?
$450.
Well,
So the
because we
county
haven't-
was paying
we haven't put this on a,
$475 on that insurance plan,
on an agenda to
month.
discuss.
which comes out to
My recommendation would be
$5,400
that
a
we
year
basically
per
add- We add
person.
this to an agenda
okay?
to discuss this issue.
So the total between the two
And
was
part of it is these
$63,900.
These
Okay,
overlapping
the county had to pay that,
areas
to
of
chip
oversight
in
between
to
the
the
executive committee and
insurance.
finance. committee.
not saying if any of these people
Yeah,
are sick
you know,
or
in the
anything,
long
that
run,
doesn't make any
You know,
difference.
if
But the
we
county had
redistrict
to
our
pay the
county
premium.
from 21 down to, let's say, 15 or
$6,300
13
more a
seats,
year.
we would
And
combine the
these people
executive
can
committee and
all
the finance
qualify
committee.
for Medicare.
Because this is an area, you are right, this is an area of overlapping responsibility. One is personnel, another is finance.
I'm guessing 230.
And so you can't have one without the other.
Which is,
Declaring 2 new holidays is not free for the
Right.
county.
Medicare, Medicare,
When you
I mean,
declare 2 new holidays and you have staff that have, we have areas we have to
144 a
staff,
month.
you end up adding overtime
And Dick,
for the staff that have to
and
work.
I
So it's not
agree
a,
with
it's
what
not
you
a
just said,
free,
because I have a
it's
supplement,
not
I'm
a
paying
free
$247
expenditure.
a month for a single plan.
Nor
If
is
they
giving
shop,
5
they
days
can
vacation
find, and I have
to
an
the
excellent
staff
plan.
because
I
if
don't
people
see any
leave or they
bills.
get paid out, you know,
If they
we have
shop,
people that are
I think
already
they
at
can
max
reduce
on-
what they're
on
paying
vacation.
now
People are
to the
already at
county.
20 some odd
So
days. or
it's a
25
win
days a
situation.
year.
We win, they save all that extra
You're
dollars
adding
that
again,
Bill's talking
if
about,
people
and
leave,
if they
you're
shop
adding
around, they
expense
can
to pay
get a
them
pretty
off
good
of that
supplement
vacation.
out.
So that's not free.
I have.
The question
I have
is, if you don't have any money
Medicare Advantage plan through security.
to give a raise, you don't have any money to add
and I
overtime or
get my meds
payouts.
through the VA. But I pay, last year.
But
I
those
paid
are all things that should
100
be looked at.
Or
I'm
$15.
not
times 12
disagreeing
months,
with you, but
$180
I think
was my
in the
premium
short term, I don't think
to
we're going to
them
be able to
for
accomplish much
whole year.
until we figure out, can we raise more revenue?
In
And If
addition
we
to
can't
what-
raise more revenue,
Yeah,
then we
Medicare is
have to basically
144 a
figure
month.
out how we're going
But see, the
to realign
insurance
the
gets
workforce
charged
and the
first.
services we provide to work
Medicare gets
within the
charged
budget that we
then,
have.
picks up
And
the
that's gonna be a
difference.
multi-month.
So as a result of
multi-month
that,
issue
we
that the
could
finance
be
committee will be working on.
paying more out of
But if you want
the
to talk
county,
about
the
benefits,
insurance program
this
could
would
be
the committee
paying
to start
more
that, but
money,
We'd have to add it to an agenda.
even though they
and,
qualify for
you know, so
Medicare.
Notice, so the public knows that we're going to be talking.
I would
about
assume all these people got
changing
Medicare
or
too.
Increasing county
right?
benefits to staff.
They pretty much make you go on Medicare, don't
Yeah,
they? You know?
they're all over 65.
You don't have to.
We have to change insurance carrier. In essence, and this wouldn't affect anybody that's under 60.
I don't believe we do.
I think that's a good idea for the city.
I didn't hear that.
It wouldn't affect anyone under
No, yeah. We have, yeah, that's a whole separate issue, which we would have to discuss at another meeting in another year by making incremental changes. So, I would basically, seek a motion to
Yeah,
terminate
so we
county
basically
healthcare
are,
coverage for
we have,
retired
we are
participants
self-insured.
over the age of
So we
65,
basically put in for
effective
each family
February
plan,
1st,
the
2021.
employee pays $200 a month and the county puts in
These would be
$1,800 into
retired.
this bank account.
Yeah. Because we could have somebody working
we
over
have,
65.
It's a, yeah,
we
so the
have,
motion in your packet
reinsurance
says
plan.
retired
So the claims that are
participants over the age of
$65,000,
65, effective
they
February 1st,
basically
2021.
get, reimbursed by an insurance company. And then if we have overall, let's say we
I will
have,
make that motion.
10 claims, say we have 10 claims over
I'll second it.
$64,000. So below the $65,000 claim limit, we have an overall upper liability of the county.
Opposed, say no.
We had to take out $300,000 out of the general fund this year to balance that fund because that fund did not have enough money in it to make these claims. Again, it's unsustainable, but we're hoping to pay that back.
We're
This year.
number
The
7,
balance
actually.
is enough. So maybe this year
7?
balances out.
7.
They came to us and they had basically about $150,000 increase in yearly premiums for the reinsurance. And I basically over the last 6-8 weeks negotiated with them.
So this is just for information's sake, on the
experience in.
screen,
And then
in the last page of your
changed our
packet, you can
reinsurance
see,
carrier to get back to basically a
zoomed up a little
$10,000
bit here.
increase in our reinsurance premiums.
you can
So
see the
that I
coverage
found was a
for
win.
the
We did sign
EMS
that
services.
contract with the same
And in the
insurance
middle, this
carrier we
red
have, which
middle
is
section here
Benefit
basically
Plan
had been
Administration,
served by Great
BPA.
Divide.
So
Great Divide
again,
basically
being
notified the
self-insured,
towns in
we pay all the
June
bills. So
or
this-
July
this
that they
company
basically were going to
is not an
discontinue
insurance
coverage
company. They're more
within
like a
that
bill-paying
service
company.
area.
So
In my
when you go to
conversations
the
with Great
doctor,
Divide,
you go to the physical therapist,
you know, it was
they
a
actually just pay the
two-pronged
bills out of
problem
our
they
bank
have.
account. They basically
One of which was
have
they
access
were
to that bank
spending, you
account
know,
and they pay all the bills.
tens of
And then we
thousands of
monitor
dollars
that bank account
to
to make sure
support
there's
this
enough money there.
because there wasn't
If
enough
there's not enough money there to pay the
activity
bills, we have to
to
borrow money
support
from
this. And
somebody,
secondly,
another
even
fund
if they
within the
had the
county
money,
to
they
pay for
can't
that.
find staff.
That's another significant
And
issue.
I think
which
that's a
is
problem
we'll be
that you're
looking at in
seeing
the year 2020.
all over
to look at year
rural
2022,
parts
which
of
is
America, which is
how do
there's
you
not as many
save
people
that
willing to
fund?
go in
Because
to
it has spent
become
over $1 million
emergency
that
technicians
they have spent over $1
and
million on
emergency
healthcare for
responders.
employees.
In
that has come
fact,
from the
the
general fund.
Ashland,
And there's
the
an
city
IOU sitting
program
in the
here,
general fund
they've
that has
had
to be
3
paid back at
openings
some
in their
point.
department since
So does that mean
February, and
you
they
charge
have not been able to
employees
fill
more on a
them.
monthly basis?
And
Does
so
that mean you change?
for Great Divide,
you
it
go to a higher
was
deductible
not only a
so
monetary
that
issue, but more
employees
about staffing.
more out of
They
pocket
basically
every
couldn't
month?
just staff it.
All those
And if they
issues
did,
have
they
to
had
be looked
overtime,
at,
and it just
research
ended
that
up
we come
being a
back
mess.
over the next few months to figure out,
So
again, how do you
there's been a
build
couple meetings
sustainable county budget
between these
and
towns,
also
and
reward the employees that they
they're
wanna keep
trying to
working for us.
see who else can help pick this up. If you notice, the south part of the county here is picked up by Park
When are they
Falls.
gonna be doing this?
The city of Mellon has its own
Is
EMS
that gonna be for the next
service,
election?
volunteers, and they have been,
Well,
again, having trouble getting volunteers to
But
staff
after
the
the
crew.
census, they usually
So
do a
basically,
Yeah, so
when
after
they
the
can't
census
get
comes
people to
back,
show up,
by law,
Park
every
Falls
county
either
has
has
to
to come
redistrict.
up, or Ashland has to come down to
you
Mellon
could,
to serve
at that
them.
point, you could choose to
So
stay at
the option of
21
Mellon
members,
basically
or you could
drastically
change your number.
increasing
You
its
could go to
service area
17,
is not an option. They're struggling
13,
just to
whatever.
provide
Bayfield
service
went
within
down
their
to
city
30.
limits.
The
reason I bring this to your attention is
we went down to 19.
This is a
in
town
1
issue
year,
to solve,
one
not a county
census
issue
cycle,
to
and then we're gonna
solve.
go, they're gonna go down
And
to
the towns
13
have
also.
to basically
So
figure
it'll be
out
up to the county
how
board
to
to
pay for
decide
this
if they
service.
want to go. and
A
decrease the
ambulance
amount
service is
of
much
people
more than
on
just
that
paying for
board.
an ambulance to show up
And
at your
that will
door.
happen basically
The
coming up in
ambulance
2021.
services and EMS
We're gonna get the
services,
census data.
it costs money to
It may
build
be by
buildings,
the end
to
of
have
this
equipment,
year, maybe certified,
and to
or
have
maybe
staff
going into
readily
next year.
available to be there when you
Extension
make a
works
call.
extensively
And
on
so the
this.
towns have to
Our,
pay
GIS
whatever,
person,
30 or
Brittany,
$100,000
works
a
extensively on
year
this because
just
even
to
if
have
you
that
stay at
service
21
available.
members,
And the
you
state
still have to
requires them to do
redistrict
that.
based on
They're
population,
struggling,
because
trying to
the
figure
goal
out
of,
how to replicate
each 21
this.
districts is to have an
It's not
overall
a,
equal
the county, if the
representation.
county
They don't have
wanted
one
to get into
district
the EMS
representing 300
service,
people,
which I am
and
not
another
recommending,
representing 900 people.
we would have to
Given the
basically,
population
build
here,
a building,
each
buy
district should be
equipment,
around
hire a bunch of
750
staff, and get
people.
into this
And
business.
so we are gonna have to
And
redraw
given
those
the
lines
budget
anyway.
constraints we have now, we don't have anywhere near the money to get into the EMS service. I just wanted the executive committee to be aware of this, that
It'll be,
it's not a
the
county
election will be
problem
in
to solve,
2022, April of
and
2022.
that, we'll do what we can. One of the concerns that we have is, because of the longer
Yeah, you
response
just had an
times, if we're
election
relying on Park
this year.
Falls or Ashland
then,
or another
so
provider
This will give
to
us
do
a
these
year, we
calls in the
basically
middle of the
certify
county,
with the state.
and we have, let's
There's
say,
time for people to challenge
attack.
it, because some people
we may
may,
have to have a
you
person
know,
on
and
the
this
phone at
becomes a
dispatch
political issue,
for,
not only at the local,
45
even on the
minutes,
small,
talking
little
them through CPR,
micro
which is
level of
going
the
to limit
county
how we
board, you
respond
still
to
have
other calls,
people that are like,
because
I want this,
you know, we
area in
can't
my
hang up the
district, I
line.
don't want
We
this
have to
area in
walk
my
them through and be with them the whole
And then in
time. So
addition, you're gonna
that will be
see
the effect of the
more of this
county.
national issue,
If
which
there
is the
isn't a
seventh
local provider
congressional
in there
district,
that's going to respond in
you
a
know,
timely
for
fashion,
Washington, that
and they're
will
going to
get
try to
redrawn.
contract with
Our
either Ashland or Park
Myers
Falls.
and Yulee district.
And I don't know if Ashland or
everything will
Park
get
Falls is going to want
redrawn,
to take on that
basically,
responsibility
and
or not.
redistributed
That's
during
up
this
to
next
them to
year of
decide.
2021.
So
the executive
no
committee will
action, but I
decide
thought I
that,
would
or-
just put it
and
out
then
there
make a
for your, if you have any
recommendation to the zoning
questions,
board?
and we could
I
discuss it.
actually don't know I don't know what committee actually reviews that. I've never done it before, so,
Okay.
yeah,
I
it'll
just
go
thought
through a
I'd
committee,
throw
and then the
this
county
out,
board has to approve it.
The town that were involved in this Great Divide,
they went ahead and bought a house in the town of Gordon. And that was like Shanagolden, Gordon, and Jacobs. They threw money in to buy this house, okay? And the there was a person on call there 24 hours a day at this house. So I just, that's kind of.
So do you want to
And
do it
the thing
before
is,
or
I
after?
guess they got into a discussion
Uh,
or a lawsuit in regarding how much they were getting paid
The
for
election
being
is
on
on the
call
3rd.
at this
I mean,
house, even though they
that's only
weren't
2
out
weeks
there.
away.
So there
I
wasn't
don't have
enough
any action
calls
that's
to actually
relevant.
make it worthwhile to pay.
Why don't you
and they
just
had
set
to
it
be
as
there
needed?
24 hours.
Huh?
So.
Why don't you just
um,
wait and set it as
They're really
needed?
scrambling. And some of the ones that used to
Yeah,
go to
I
the
don't have anything.
city of Ashland were
Right
covered
now
by the
that
city
needs
of
to be
Ashland,
decided.
broke off and
I
went
mean,
to their
I'll
own.
work with Dick,
Like the town of White River
you
and
know, to
Marengo,
see,
they went
we
to
have
their
issues
own,
that pop
they
up.
went to this
you
Great
know.
Divide
I don't
ambulance.
have anything right
Okay,
now
but
that needs to
before
be
they
brought
were
up.
served by the
We
city of
have,
Ashland.
the 17th of
So
November,
that
we have a
was
county
kind of a little
tribal
background.
committee meeting.
But I know they
So
are
that's
struggling,
Tuesday.
definitely.
Well,
The next Tuesday, the 24th, is the week of Thanksgiving, which always tends to be a little light on attendance.
yeah, that was
I
devastating.
think, if I remember correctly, Wisconsin is deer hunting that week.
Yes.
I'm not a hunter, but I think I remember no business gets done in the entire state that week, is my understanding.
Well, it's the biggest economic move we have in the year because
I
it's
don't know
not
if we're not
hunting.
paying enough or.
I mean, it is. If you look at
the
the statistics, that week takes in more economic. We want to promote economics, so-
Minneapolis to make more money because that's a rat.
So yeah, so I just say we just let it ride for now, and maybe we meet, you know, maybe the 8th of December or something like that, but I'll work with Dick, and we'll look at what needs to be decided. And then, if you have items for the agenda, you know, either talk to me or talk to the chairperson, and we can put stuff on the agenda for the next meeting. We have a tracking sheet at the county that we use for every committee that the county clerk has access to, I do, Lori does. And so as issues pop up, we put it on this tracking sheet so all the staff know where we're at, and that helps us write these packets that you see. And this takes a lot of time for us to produce these kind of things. And we have to make sure we build enough time into each one of our work schedules to produce
I
these
guess one of
meetings.
the things that they didn't plan on when they instigated this type of service is, first of all, if you're on
Not yet.
call and you're at home, one of the things, the court time is going to be a lot more than if you're where the ambulance actually is. So then they left in this house. Okay, now what you've done is you've set up a meeting, fire department, EMS station, just like Ashland. If somebody's gonna be there 24 hours a day, they're not gonna do that for nothing. Now you're paying somebody to be there even if they don't go out. And I think that.
Yeah, we did have some graffiti the other day.
Do that, but that's the fact of life.
And
You know,
we signed on to a letter, basically, you know, admonishing this particular types of graffiti and hatred. And it was basically, the mayor put together a letter, and she wanted some people to sign on to it. And so.
It
Dick
looks
and I
like
both
Mike
signed
Berlin
on
has,
to that
joined us.
On behalf of the employees, and Dick on behalf of
Mike is
the
on
board.
that?
Yeah, I can see him on the
And then
picture
the
up
city
there.
did the same thing and stuff like that. So I don't know what Mayor Lewis did with that
There
letter,
he is.
but that's basically, we did that yesterday.
So any other questions on that? Like I said, this is not an action item. This is just for your information and for basically the county board members that may get this question. I wanted to put this packet together so they could reference it to say what the issue here is.
Any more discussion?
Just for your information, the county courthouse here is not a polling place, but we will have the county courthouse open on election night because all the polling places report their
Okay,
election
so this,
results to the county. And
This
we have
is
to
just
have our
a,
building
since the
open
executive
and
committee
accessible for
functions as
tabulation
the
watchers, let's say.
personnel committee for the
Poll
county
watchers would
board,
be at the
setting
polls.
policy for
Tabulation
counties,
watchers would be at the
for the county board
And
employees.
so,
I'm asking this committee to
late
come up with a 1 year, just a 1 day policy
We
here.
got somebody around.
In talking with
And,
the county clerk,
We're,
she is in contact
I
with
talked to
all
court
of
counsel about
the
security.
polling
on that
locations in the
night,
county.
because we may
And
be
as
here
of
till
today,
midnight or 1 in the
they
morning for all
feel
I
they
know.
have
How do we
enough
secure
staff
our
to run the
staff
polls,
to
enough
make sure we're
volunteers to
safe-
run the
safe
polls.
throughout that
One of
night
the
for
issues that
everybody.
the Wisconsin Counties Association is encouraging counties to do is to set up availability for county employees to basically go to the
I
polling
will so
places
move that
and
we
work
adjourn.
if in the last minute, they basically have a shortage. If somebody, if a bunch of poll workers end up being quarantined, this is, you know, there's one method to help. I know the National Guard has been requested to help, but this would just be another option that we could chip in. The county employees would have to have a 2-hour training to be a poll worker. That's online. We would basically make sure that they go through that training. We would offer the training right here in this room with these TV sets. And what I'm basically recommending is that for county employees who are going to volunteer at a polling location, they would be granted a one day of personal time that can only be utilized on that day. Can't be carried forward, can't be cashed in. It can all be utilized if it's verified that they basically work at a polling location on that day in Ashland County. So I did not put in another county, Iron or Bayfield. I know we probably have employees who live in those other counties, but given the fact that, and this would be up to the community to decide, I basically said move to allow county employees to work at Ashland County election polling locations on November 3rd, 2020, using a personal day of pay, which they will be granted. So it's just a 1 day, 1 year policy.
I have a question about that, Clark.
Go ahead.
They're actually, our employees are actually losing money by doing that then. Because if the polls are open from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. They're working 12 hours for 8 hours pay.
Yeah, so the reason that we're doing this way, Dick, is instead of paying county employees to go work at a poll, which you might expose yourself to overtime, you might expose yourself to workers' comp if you're basically on the clock. What we're doing is basically saying, if you work at the polls, you'll get 1 day of pay, and then you're using your own time to do that. So they'd get paid what their normal day is, 7.5, 8 hours, whatever their normal day of pay is. And if they work, 5 hours or 12 hours at a poll, they still basically get their 1 day of pay from working at the county.
They will get paid by the polling place also.
Right.
Yes, I understand that.
Yeah, they're most likely, unless they split the shifts, most likely these folks are gonna be working 14, 15, 16 hours. Because it's 6:30 or more in the morning, because polls open at 7, they close at 8. With this election, they could be working till midnight, depending on if they split it. But I agree, as long as the understanding is that they can get their 8 hours or whatever their county pay is, and then we don't touch their polling pay because they're get paid to work at the polls. I'm okay with it.
Right. I know, I used to be on, I told them that if they got somebody else, they were shorthanded and they asked me to be on the polling in the city of Ashland. And what they did is they split the shift in the city of Ashland. So like if you came early, you were there so many hours and then you went home and then you came back. And everybody came back at the end. Then you got $100 a day. And for going to the meeting, this 2-hour training, you got $25 plus a breakfast. So, but I told them I was on it for 2 years because they were short. And I told them, I said, well, if you can find somebody else, I don't care. So I just did it for 1 year, I think. 1 year I did it when they were short. But the city or the district still pays them, but by volunteering that time, you're getting paid for the day. I don't have a problem with that from the county. You're just getting paid your normal day. And then whatever the polling place pays or whatever the district pays, that's what they would get. And it would be strictly voluntary. You wouldn't have to do it.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the table.
Thank you. That's one less day of vacation I'll have to use for elections.
You're welcome.
All those in favor?
To approve the county poll workers, suggestion that they get a day's, their normal day's pay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Number 9, discussion and action, First Amendment auditor policy. Very confusing.
Okay. I basically am going to go over a version I sent out to you yesterday or the day before. It just had a couple changes from Max basically in the policy. If you look on the screen up on top here, you can see there's been these people that have been going around to different government locations. And the word First Amendment auditor basically is people walk in with cameras and they'll walk into one of the classic, like the city of Prescott, they walked into a open ambulance bay and they walked in and they just started recording and walking around the building, and it wasn't signed that says you can't walk in. Cops were called, they ended up having this whole discussion. These people are basically trying to figure out, you know, in a public location, what is and what isn't accessible to record. And there's 2 outcomes, one of which is they can sue you if you basically limit their rights to record. And 2, if you get arrested, there's, you know, these things just devolve into issues. And so, again, this comes from the Wisconsin Counties Association. These people have been going around, this organization's been going around the state, basically coming into locations and stating, you know, basically start recording things. As a government organization, we want to be able to limit where recording is done. 1, for the safety of our staff. 2, for the privacy of people making applications or looking for records or doing things. And 3, from state statutes. You know, like you can't walk into the, you know, register the deeds office and start recording information inside of the vault, because by state statute, you have to pay for that kind of stuff. So the policy itself is, would basically allow the county administrator to basically grant areas in the county that are off limits for recording. And then there is a process in there, this has been reviewed by Corp Counsel, that if the public has a question about that, they can appeal the decision of what is and what isn't a open and public space. And they would appeal it to this committee right here to basically say, why was that decision made? Why is this, why can you not record? So, and the whole point of this issue is we want to give the authority by an elected body, you, basically saying we can put signs up to say employees only past this point, no access past this point, no recording here. That should be done by an elected body that reports to the citizens, not by me. Because if I just have staff just putting up signs, it's their opinion. And we want the governing body to basically give the power to be able to do this from this legislative standpoint, and then have an appeals process. If the public isn't happy with not being able to walk through a barrier in the clerk's office and start recording the people at their desk, we want to be able to say the elected body of the county basically approve the ability to limit, you know, access to areas which are either private or protected, you know, for records, for employee safety, and also limit recording in areas where it would be a public safety issue. And so in the memo itself, if you approve this policy, we would send this out to all the employees, and we encourage them to do some training. In your packet, you see basically PowerPoint that was put up by WCA. A lot of this has to do with employee education. what do you do as a public employee if somebody comes in and starts recording the interactions with you? And how do you make sure that you remain calm, you remain collected? You know, they're looking to try to agitate and trigger and get a response from employees. And we want to basically be able to say, you know, train our employees, have them all go through this PowerPoint, have them watch a video about how this goes, what to expect, and make sure that we are prepared, because they are going around Wisconsin and will eventually, you know, come in and start recording. And they'll challenge a sign that says no entry past here. Why is that sign there? Who made that decision? Well, we want to make sure that there's a policy in place, and this policy grants the authority to, on an individual basis, this office, this area, you know, to do that. So it's not as important in some locations, but, you know, like Health and Human Services, they have a door that is locked. You can't get past that door, but they have a waiting area. We can basically sign that to say no recording in this area. Let's say somebody wants to come in and record people coming in for whatever reason into that waiting room. Are they coming in for, you know, testing for a sexually transmitted disease? Are they coming in for food stamps? Are they coming in for something? Those are the types of things that people have an expectation of privacy, and they don't want a YouTube video showing them what they're there for. So in these courthouse offices, you know, the question is, you can't go past a certain point in an office. You can't walk into a private office and record somebody's desk and their computer screen watching them work. We need a policy for that. So part of it's education and part of it is just developing this policy. And so in your packet, you can see the explanations of what do you do, which would be part of the employee training portion. What do you do if an individual is in a public space? What do you do? And we're instructing staff to do these certain things. And then after that, we have this policy, which starts on page 5, has our logo on it. Actually, I need to put the title of the policy on top. So members of the public, including media representatives, having First Amendment rights to record officers in public spaces as long as their action does not interfere with the government employee's duty or the safety of said employees or others. The employees should assume they are being recorded at all times when on duty in a public space. And then we go through definitions. We go through the procedures for interactions. What happens if you basically, you know, violate that? We have, and this went through the sheriff's office. They basically approved this. You know, we can't, you know, without a warrant, you can't seize a video recording. And the interactions for law enforcement, limited access to non-public forums. And then basically, that basically has, hang on here, going back to that. Citizens can petition the county administrator in writing to request a review of the decision to limit public access, which will be reviewed at the next executive committee meeting. So there is, you know, people can come in, and what we want to be able to do is, instead of having a list that's codified, we want to be able to have a little bit of flexibility here, so we don't have to come back to the executive committee every time to say we want to move a sign from this location to this location, or move it 3 feet here. We want to provide that as an administrative thing, but we also want the public to be able to appeal that decision to elected bodies to say, I don't think it's right that you're limiting my access here. So it's we're kind of balancing it. So that basically is our presentation on that.
Richard,
Okay, Bill.
is Wisconsin counties recommending this passage?
Yes. Yep. So they basically put on a whole seminar. The PowerPoint came from them. They basically, and their whole point of doing this from Corp Council standpoint, and our Corp Council recommends this also, is if we just allow individual employees to put up a sign, what gives them the power to do that? They're just an employee. We want the county board to have a policy which is more of a legislative review to say, here's how these decisions are made. They're not made by just, one staff member. They're made by the county administrator, and that's an appealable decision to the executive committee if the public has a problem with it. So that's kind of their recommendation, to balance those two opposing rights, the right to access, the right to record, but also employee safety and data practices, that they won't be exposed.
Okay.
I'll,
Need a motion to,
I'll make a motion for the adoption of this. Move to recommend First Amendment auditor policy to the county board.
we have a second. I'll second. Marty seconded. A motion on a second to move this along to the full county board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 10. Executive closed session. We have a motion in one closed session.
I'll make the motion.
Ready? We have a second.
I will second it.
Okay, roll call vote. Dick Pufall,
Roll
Yes.
call.
We're doing a roll call vote to go into closed session.
You have to say aye or yes. Roll call. Because executive, you need roll call. In and out. Yeah.
Dick Pufall,
Here.
Gary Mertig,
Yes.
Bill Metzinger,
Yes.
Marty Vitek.
Yes.
Mike Berlin, and I don't believe Mike has any audio.
Mike, can you put your thumb up? I don't think he can even hear us, can he? Okay. All right, so because we're on Zoom here and Mike is still part of it, is there anybody else on the call that you're going to put back in the waiting room, Lori?
There is no one, so I'm going to stop recording now.
Sounds good.
Okay, and, another 13 administrator updates.
So probably the only thing I have is I would really encourage the executive committee to also review the finance meeting that is on the YouTube channel from the last week. We had our auditors report, and the auditor spoke for, I don't know, hour and 20 minutes. Very educational, and the county has some significant problems. We've been basically spending our cash. Our unallocated funds in the general fund has gone from like $3.5 million down to 900,000. And this next year's budget's in 2021. We're going to be spending another $250,000 of that to support county operations. So there'll have to be some significant changes. And from the personnel standpoint, which this committee serves as, you know, we're probably going to be looking at, I'll probably be coming back to you with trying to come up with a policy for, you know, a hiring freeze of some sort. I don't know how that, you know, part of the reason I can't, saying you have a hiring freeze is pretty easy. Implementing it is more complicated. So do you not hire highway workers who plow roads? Do you not hire people who work in the jail? Do you not hire public health people in the middle of a pandemic? And if you get to a certain point, what does a hiring freeze really mean? If you basically have to hire all the mandated services, child protection, you know, so I'm going to try to shop around to other counties that have done this throughout the years. And because one of the ways to obviously to decrease the county expense is to figure out, you know, if we could work through attrition and basically people who have left, we just don't replace. How does that look? And then would that save some money? Because I don't think that would save the entire problem, but it would save some money. And we have to see what we go with that. I would hate to go to the fact, I mean, I'd hate to go to the point of basically just laying off people because we don't have the money. But I think the first step would be looking at a hiring freeze and how to implement that policy. And how to make that is that everybody who's hired has to come to the administrator. Everybody who is going to be hired has to go through the executive committee. Every hire has to go to the county board. How do we decide how to replace people, but not cripple county government? You know, if we have to wait a month or 2 months to advertise to bring a jailer in, that's going to be a real problem. Do we want to make exemptions? The reason I'm just talking about this is I want you as committee members to contemplate what you would like to see in a policy and get back to me, because I will work on drafting that as we go forward. In addition, you know, we're going to be looking at the finance committee basically decrease the capital expenditures or the debt levy by $300,000. So we took a couple $100,000 out of highway and then appropriate amount from the rest of it. Since highway bases the majority of our debt levy, they have to have the majority of the costs out of there. And that will be a county board decision on the 10th. Do we want to levy for debt levy for 1.5 million or 1.8 million? We base our building in the interest on this, hopefully about a 63-day loan. And so I've let the bank know, we'll know on the 10th, are we going to do 1.8 or 1.5, or maybe somewhere in between. So the county board will have to weigh in on that. And other than that, we're basically seeing a spike, you know, the COVID issue. We basically are spending about $25,000 a month on contact tracing. We're working with a couple different grants to try to keep up with that financially. One grant runs out on November 5th, and then hopefully the other one runs out in December, but it will pose a challenge for us going into 21 if there isn't any other state or federal money coming to the local governments to keep up with contact tracing and public health costs at the local level. So we'll have to just face that bridge when we come to it, which is one of my concerns with not having a balanced budget, is it could get worse based on the pandemic here. So, and I don't have any other updates.
Any questions for Hart? No?
In the upcoming budget, is a percentage raise for all employees considered or no, or what, or what's the status of that? It's been changed a few times.
We basically have no increases for any employees. We basically decreased travel, we decreased conferences, we decreased expenses where we thought we could. And but even balancing those forces, obviously, we still are significantly have a misalignment of revenue and expenses. The other thing from the long-term perspective, if you saw the finance committee, the healthcare fund has not been sustainable over the last few years. So there has to be an increase of money going into that healthcare fund. And if that either comes from the employees, meaning they get a pay cut, or if that means we increase the contribution that the county puts into our self-funded plan every month, that has to be increased general levy dollars. So that fund is going to be a problem.
Now, the Social Services Committee went ahead and approved a 2% raise. Does that do anything or no?
That was not approved by the finance committee.
Okay, but the Social Services Committee approved it.
Yeah,
But that's as far as it went.
that's as far as it went. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to give one department a raise and nobody else. Lori did do a spreadsheet. General 2% raise would, seat of the pants would be somewhere around $100,000 to $120,000 additional money that we would have to take out of the bank to give an employee raises. And so obviously we're already taking $250,000 out of the bank. I'm not recommending that we take another $100,000 or $125,000 to give people raises, because that's just more unsustainable. You know, I mean, in the long run, we have to build in some sort of increases for the staff. If we basically tell the staff, if you choose to work for Ashland County, you will forever see no raises, and you'll most likely see a decrease in take-home pay by increasing healthcare costs. You're going to find a significant retention problem and recruitment problem. So there's a misalignment in either how we provide services or how we raise revenue, and there has to be a combination of that to try to get the county onto a sustainable path, which it has not been on for 5 years.
Is it, I don't know who's, it'll be the finance committee or whatever, have they looked into like restoring, like we used to get 12 days of holidays, and they cut it down to, they took 2 holidays away. Is there any way we could go ahead and, instead of not giving them a raise, is restoring those 2 days? Or if it's a 2% raise, could we say, well, 2% raise is actually 5 working days, no matter what your salary is? Could they get an additional 5 days of vacation? Is there, have they ever discussed that, or the finance committee, or?
They have not, and I think the goal of the 2021 cycle is to look at all these different things of how do you create a sustainable workforce that's, you know, rewarded in a fashion that they want to come to work for Ashland County and people want to apply for jobs at Ashland County, but at the same time working within the limited amount of money that we have. I mean, my recommendation was to, at least in the short term, help out the county with the wheel tax. The county board did not get a motion or a second to put it on the agenda to even talk about it. So the wheel tax has never been discussed. It'd be my recommendation that we discuss it, but a county board member would have to basically say they want it on the agenda again in order to make a motion and a second in order to discuss it.
Question now, if I was in favor of restoring those 2 days of holiday pay, what do I need to do? I think the county employees should get something, and their health insurance is going to be going up, and actually I feel we're underpaid, but you know, we knew that, but this is an underpaid area. So, you know, I do feel that they should get some type of compensation of some type of raise, you know? So I would think that would be my two suggestions. One would be 5 additional days of vacation, which wouldn't cost us anything. Or my second recommendation would be to get the 2 holiday pays back that they were taken away. So is it up to this committee to make a motion, or is it the full county board, or is it the finance committee, or what?
Well, because we haven't put this on an agenda to discuss. My recommendation would be that you basically we add this to an agenda to discuss this issue. And you know, part of it is these overlapping areas of oversight between executive committee and finance committee. You know, in the long run, you know, if we redistrict our county from 21 down to, let's say, 15 or 13 seats, we would combine the executive committee and the finance committee, because this is an area, you are right, this is an area of overlapping responsibility. One is personnel, another is finance. And so you can't have one without the other. Declaring 2 new holidays is not free for the county. When you declare 2 new holidays and you have staff that we have areas we have to staff, you end up adding overtime for the staff that have to work. So it's not a free expenditure, nor is giving 5 days of vacation to staff, because if people leave or they get paid out, you know, we have people that are already at max on vacation. People are already at 20 some odd days or 25 days a year. You're adding, again, if people leave, you're adding an expense to pay them off for that vacation. So that's not free either. And so the question is, if you don't have any money to give a raise, you don't have any money to add overtime or payouts either. But those are all things that should be looked at. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think in the short term, I don't think we're going to be able to accomplish much until we figure out, can we raise more revenue? And if we can't raise more revenue, then we have to basically figure out how we're going to realign the workforce and the services we provide to work within the budget that we have. And that's going to be a multi-month issue that the finance committee will be working on. But if you want to talk about benefits, this would be the committee to start that, but we would have to add it to an agenda, and you know, so it's noticed, so the public knows that we're going to be talking about changing or increasing county benefits to staff.
I don't know if we should be discussing this or not, it's not on the agenda, but do you know if we have the same insurance carrier as the city?
I don't believe we do.
Well, what happened with the city insurance, the insurance company came in with like a 14% increase. No way in hell we could do that. So we got into negotiations with them, raised a little bit of hell, and they came back to the 0% increase. So these things can be done.
Yeah, so we basically we are self-insured. So we basically put in for each family plan, the employee pays $200 a month and the county puts in $1,800 into this bank account. We have a reinsurance plan. So the claims that are over $65,000, they basically get reimbursed by an insurance company. And then if we have an overall, let's say we have, 10 claims, say we have 10 claims over $64,000. So below the $65,000 claim limit, we have an overall upper liability of the county. We had to take out $300,000 out of the general fund this year to balance that fund, because that fund did not have enough money in it to make these claims. Again, it's unsustainable, but we're hoping to pay that back by the end of this year. We're thinking the balance is enough, so maybe this year balance is out. They came to us and they had basically about $150,000 increase in yearly premiums for the reinsurance. And I basically, over the last 6-8 weeks, negotiated with them. We ended up having to get the September experience in, And then we changed our reinsurance carrier to get back to basically a $10,000 increase in our reinsurance premiums. So that I found was a win. We did sign that contract with the same insurance carrier we have, which is Benefit Plan Administration, BPA. So again, being self-insured, we pay all the bills. So this company is not an insurance company. They're more like a bill paying company. So when you go to the doctor, you go to the physical therapist, they actually just pay the bills out of our bank account. They basically have access to that bank account and they pay all the bills. And then we monitor that bank account to make sure there's enough money in there. If there's not enough money there to pay the bills, we have to borrow money from somebody, another fund within the county to pay for that. That's another significant issue, which is we'll be looking at in the year 2021 to look at year 2022, which is how do you save that fund? Because it has spent over $1 million they have spent over $1 million on healthcare for employees that has come from the general fund. And there's an IOU sitting in the general fund that has to be paid back at some point. So does that mean you charge employees more on a monthly basis? Does that mean you change, you go to a higher deductible so that the employees pay more out of pocket every month? All those issues have to be looked at and researched as we come back over the next few months to figure out, again, how do you build a sustainable county budget and also reward the employees so they want to keep working for us?
Any more questions for Clark? Bill?
When are they gonna be doing this districting? Is that gonna be for the next election?
We're not doing any redistricting.
Well, but after the census, they usually do a redistrict.
Yeah, so after the census comes back, by law, every county has to redistrict.
Right.
At that point, you could choose to stay at 21 members,
Okay.
or you could change your numbers. You could go to 17, 16, 13, whatever. Bayfield went down to 13. You know, I mean, when I was at St. Clair County, we had 31. We went down to 19 in 1 year, one census cycle, and then they're going to go down to 13 also. So it'll be up to the county board to decide if they want to go and decrease the amount of people on that board. And that will happen basically coming up in 2021. We're going to get the census data. It may be by the end of this year, maybe certified, or it may be going into next year. Extension works extensively on this. Our GIS person, Brittany, works extensively on this because even if you stay at 21 members, you still have to redistrict based on population because the goal of each 21 districts is to have an overall equal representation. So you don't have one district representing 300 people and another representing 900 people. Given the population here, each district should be around 750 people. And so we are going to have to redraw those lines anyway.
So we will redraw them for the 2021 election in April for the county board members. The
election will be in 2022, April of 2022.
Well, the election is for the county board members.
Not next year.
Is it next year? 22. 22?
Yeah, you just had an election this year.
Okay.
And then, so this will give us a year. We basically certify it with the state. There's time for people to challenge it because some people may, you know, and this becomes a political issue, not only at the local, even on the small little micro level of the county board, you still have people that are like, I want this area in my district, or I don't want this area in my district. And then in addition, you're going to see more of this national issue, which is the 7th congressional district, you know, for Washington, that will get redrawn. Our Myers and Bewley districts, everything will get redrawn basically and redistributed during this next year of 2021.
So the executive committee will decide that, and then make a recommendation to the county board?
I actually don't know what committee actually reviews that. I've never done it before. So yeah, it'll go through a committee and then the county board has to approve it.
Any more questions for Clark? If not, we'll move along to the next meeting date.
County board annual meeting is November 10th.
Yep.
So do you want to do it before or after?
The election is on the 3rd. I mean, that's only 2 weeks away. I don't have any action that's that relevant.
Why don't you just set it as needed?
Huh?
Why don't you just wait and set it as needed?
I don't have anything right now that needs to be decided. I mean, I'll work with Dick, to see if we have issues that pop up, I don't have anything right now that needs to be brought up. We have the 17th of November, we have a county tribal committee meeting. So that's a Tuesday. The next Tuesday, the 24th, is the week of Thanksgiving, which always tends to be a little light on attendance. I think, if I remember correctly, Wisconsin is deer hunting that week.
Yes.
I'm not a hunter, but I think I remember no business gets done in the entire state that week, is my understanding.
Well, it's the biggest economic week we have in the year because who's not hunting and shopping? I mean, it is. If you look at the statistics, that week takes in more economic. We want to promote economics, so.
So I just say we just let it ride for now, and maybe we meet maybe the 8th of December or something like that. But I'll work with Dick, and we'll look at what needs to be decided. And then if you have items for the agenda, either talk to me or talk to the chairperson, and we can put stuff on the agenda for the next meeting. We have a tracking sheet at the county that we use for every committee that the county clerk has access to. I do, Lori does. And so as issues pop up, we put it on this tracking sheet so all the staff know where we're at. And that helps us write these packets that you see. This takes a lot of time for us to produce these kind of things. And we have to make sure we build enough time into each one of our work schedules to produce these meetings.
Well, we're not going to set a date for this meeting.
Not yet.
Okay. One other thing I want to bring up quick before we adjourn, I certainly hope that we have our county sheriff's department and the National Guard alerted there's probably going to be some disruption, trying to disrupt our election process. It's happening along here already.
Yeah, we did have some graffiti the other day. And we signed on to a letter basically, admonishing this particular types of graffiti and hatred. And it was basically, the mayor put together a letter and she wanted some people to sign on to it. And so Dick and I both signed on to that on behalf of the employees and Dick on behalf of the county board. And then the city did the same thing and stuff like that. So I don't know what Mayor Lewis did with that letter, but that's basically, we did that yesterday.
This is a very important issue. They're trying to interpret some very, very basic democratic process we have. So everybody to know it's very clear. We're not wrong.
Just for your information, the county courthouse here is not a polling place, but we will have the county courthouse open on election night because all the polling places report their election results to the county. And we have to have our building open and accessible for tabulation watchers, let's say. Poll watchers would be at the polls, tabulation watchers would be at the county. And so I plan on being here late to be around to help out with the clerk's office to make sure they got somebody around. And I talked to Corp Counsel about security for that night because we may be here till midnight or 1 in the morning for all I know. How do we secure our staff and make sure we're safe throughout that night for everybody?
Okay.
I will so move that we adjourn.
I'll second. And both second to adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
We're adjourned, thank you.
Thank you. And stop recording, Lori.